Okay, I've titled this tutorial Fragments. So we're going to create something that looks similar to this. And you're going to pick a word and fragment it, pull it apart, and simply add some brushwork on top and a drop shadow. I'm going to start with a new file, 8 by 12 inches, 300 dpi. So it's a really good print size. I created a solid fill background first of all, and I went in and picked a color for myself and clicked OK. Alt backspace or edit fill with background color, foreground color. I'm going to change my default colors back to white and black, grab my text tool, and I found Franklin Gothic Demi, which is a fairly thick typeface, and I found myself Word, increase the font size so it fills up a good portion of the page, and I'm also going to get my properties here for my type tool, and I'm going to increase the tracking or the distance between each letter just a little bit, just to give myself a little space, something like that. Good. And I'm just going to center this by control clicking the background layer. Using my move tool, I'm going to center my word. Now I'm going to cut this word up, and I need to rasterize the layer first, so I'll right click on Joyful, my text layer, and I will rasterize the type. That means I can't edit it anymore, so I'm going to make sure that it was spelled correctly. Then I'll grab my marquee tool, and no, before I do that, I'm going to grab some rulers, and I'm just going to split this up in a couple different spots. Maybe something like there, maybe somewhere in the middle, and then get my descenders in there as well, something like that. Then with my marquee tool, I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to let it snap to my guide, and I shall do a Control-Shift-J. Control-J, as you know, copies the layer, but in this case I'm going to cut that layer out. Now if I just hide this layer, you'll see what I mean. Now it's on a separate layer by itself, and I can hit V on the keyboard or select my move tool, and just holding the shift key down and the arrow key to the right, I'm just going to nudge that a few times to the right and fragment my text. And then I'll get my marquee tool again, clicking M on the keyboard if necessary. And I have to select the joyful layer again. I can't cut anything out of that layer, so I have to select the joyful layer. Control-Shift-J again. Move tool, which is the letter V on the keyboard, and I'll move this to the right a little bit as well. So I'm going to distort my letters a little bit. I wonder what happens if I rotate them. Oops, Control-T. Yeah, I'm just going to rotate it a little bit. I want it to be distorted, but I don't want it to be so distorted that people can't read what I've got here. I'm going to mess with this layer a little bit. Right click and move to that layer. Just going to mess with it a little bit more. Maybe I'll move it that way. I think so. And then get my marquee tool again. Select that bottom layer, Control-Shift-J, V on the keyboard, slide that back a little bit. There we go. What happens if I rotate this one a little bit too? Awesome. So now I've got this word that's kind of fragmented, distorted a little bit, but we can still see that it says joyful. Just going to hide my guides for a moment. View, show, guides. And then I'm going to add my drop shadow. I right click on layer 1. Sorry, not going to right click. I'm just going to select it and go down to effects. Go to drop shadow and just apply a drop shadow. Not too much of one. Something like that is probably good. Click OK. And then I'll right click on effects. Copy the layer style. And I'll add the drop shadow to all the other layers by simply selecting that first layer, layer 2, shift clicking on joyful layer, right click, and paste layer styles. Here we go. Not too bad. I could probably add a drop shadow if I wanted to, or a stroke if I wanted to, but I think I'll just leave it like that. That's not too bad. With the brush work, I simply did a control click on one of my layers, and then I selected the same color as my background. Found a brush, one of my X-Rater brushes, which I kind of like, and then I just started stamping in. Like so. Control click on different layer. There we go. Control D to deselect. Something like that. Now you can do other things to the background. I could create a gradient that was just from light blue to a little bit darker blue. Get my gradient tool and make a linear gradient, light to dark, something like that. I'm even going to make that just a little bit darker. Like that. Let's see what a radial gradient looks like. Not bad. Maybe a radial gradient will work for me. So I'll leave it like that. And there's my fragment of text.